Welcome back to our channel, soap fans. Today is a beautiful day to dive into the most explosive drama television has to offer. We have a lot of ground to cover, so let us jump right into the shocking twists awaiting us. The sound of tearing couture and shattering glass echoes through the hallowed halls of Forrester Creations, but it is the sickening, metallic crunch that will haunt Los Angeles forever. Blood is spilling on the runway. The ultimate Spencer and Forrester war has just claimed its first casualty, and the fashion world will never, ever be the same. Well, Spencer is a man pushed to the absolute brink of human endurance. Defying the strict, uncompromising ban handed down by Eric Forrester, Will refuses to walk away from the woman who holds his heart. The Forrester building is supposed to be an impenetrable fortress, but a desperate Spencer always finds a way in. The security protocols mean absolutely nothing to a man blinded by love and feral rage. Will bypasses the guards, slipping silently through the shadows of the design corridors. His target is the main showroom. He knows Elektra Forrester is working late, carrying the heavy, suffocating burden of her family legacy on her shoulders. The atmosphere in the showroom is thick with unresolved tension. Moonlight slices through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the pristine fabrics and the mannequins standing like silent, haunting witnesses. Elektra is completely alone, her mind racing with the catastrophic events of the past few weeks. Will steps out of the shadows, his sudden presence instantly electrifying the room. Elektra gasps, dropping her expensive design sketches to the floor. The man she loves, the man she was forced to abandon under the crushing weight of Ridge and Eric's demands, is standing right in front of her. He is defying every single rule her family has set. Will does not hesitate for a second. He launches into a desperate, feral plea. He begs Elektra to come back to him. He strips away every ounce of his signature Spencer pride, laying his fractured, bleeding soul bare on the Forrester floor. He tells her that the corporate wars mean nothing. He tells her the fashion rivalries are entirely meaningless. He insists that the bitter family feuds are absolute poison and that he cannot survive another day without her in his arms. His voice cracks with a raw, unfiltered emotion that shakes the very foundation of the room. Elektra is completely paralyzed by the intense, overwhelming gravity of his words. Her heart screams to run into his embrace, to forget the war and choose love. But the invisible, unbreakable chains of the Forrester dynasty hold her firmly in place. She is standing at a terrifying precipice, tears welling in her eyes as she faces the impossible choice between her bloodline and her soulmate. Before Elektra can utter a single word of surrender, the heavy showroom doors swing open. R.J. Forrester steps into the moonlight. The golden boy. The smug, fiercely protective cousin who has made it his personal, vindictive mission to eradicate Will Spencer from Elektra's life forever. R.J. does not hold back. He unleashes a torrent of verbal venom, instantly escalating the fragile tension to a violent boiling point. He reminds Will of the previous beatings. He reminds him of the trespassing. He mocks the sheer, unadulterated arrogance it takes for a Spencer to step foot in a building where his name is universally despised. The cruel words strike Will like physical blows. The feral Spencer rage, simmering just below the surface for weeks, finally ignites into a blazing inferno. Will warns RJ to back off, his voice trembling with a dangerous, unpredictable volatility. He clenches his fists, the veins pulsing in his neck. But RJ, blinded by his own Forrester entitlement and a desperate need to play the hero, refuses to retreat. He takes a step closer, invading Will's space. He taunts him. He tells Will that Elektra will never love a violent, unstable Spencer. He tells him that the Forresters have already won. The verbal sparring instantly detonates into a violent, uncontrollable physical altercation. RJ shoves Will hard against the chest. Will lunges forward with terrifying speed. The two men crash violently into a massive display table, sending expensive couture, heavy design books, and crystal vases flying across the room. This is no longer a simple scuffle. This is a primal, vicious brawl born from months of deep-seated hatred, toxic jealousy, and absolute desperation. Fists fly with reckless abandon. Glass shatters into a million pieces. The pristine Forrester showroom is rapidly transformed into a brutal, unforgiving battleground. Elektra screams in pure terror, begging them to stop, but her voice is completely drowned out by the chaos of the fight. Will is losing all sense of rationality. The red mist descends over his vision. He is no longer just fighting RJ, he is fighting the entire Forrester empire that has systematically tried to destroy his life. RJ fights back fiercely, landing a heavy blow to Will's jaw. The taste of copper fills Will's mouth, pushing him entirely over the edge. In a moment of uncontrollable, blinding anger, Will grabs RJ by the lapels of his designer jacket. He spins him around and shoves him backward with every single ounce of strength he possesses. The trajectory is fatal. RJ loses his footing on the slick tile floor, stumbling violently backward toward the industrial staging area. He flails his arms, desperately trying to catch his balance, but the momentum is far too great. A heavy, sharp metal clothing rack, used for displaying the most exclusive couture gowns, stands directly in his path. The impact is absolutely catastrophic. The sharp, unyielding metal edge catches RJ with a sickening, devastating force. A breathless, agonizing gasp escapes RJ's lips as the steel pierces his body. The heavy rack crashes to the floor alongside him, the sound echoing like a gunshot through the empty building. The silence that follows is deafening and terrifying. A dark, crimson pool begins to spread rapidly across the pristine white Forrester tiles. RJ is gasping for air, his eyes wide with absolute shock and agonizing pain. The golden boy of the Forrester dynasty is bleeding out in the very house his grandfather built. Will freezes completely. The feral rage instantly evaporates from his veins, replaced by a suffocating, paralyzing horror. He looks down at his trembling hands, then at the massive pool of blood on the floor. The monster Ridge always claimed he was has just been unleashed in the most horrific way imaginable. Elektra drops to her knees, her hysterical screams piercing the quiet Los Angeles night. She frantically presses her bare hands against RJ's wound, desperately trying to stop the catastrophic bleeding. Her hands are shaking violently. Her clothes are rapidly becoming stained with the warm blood of her own cousin. She screams at Will to call for help. Will, moving like a ghost in a nightmare, fumbles for his phone and dials emergency services. Sirens soon wail in the distance, tearing through the silence of the city. The flashing red and blue lights reflect against the showroom windows, casting an eerie, terrifying glow over the bloody scene. The paramedics storm the Forrester building, their heavy boots trampling over the ruined, blood-soaked couture. They push Will aside and load RJ onto a stretcher, launching a frantic, desperate race against the clock. They shout medical jargon, applying intense pressure, fighting a losing battle against the massive hemorrhage. Elektra rides in the back of the ambulance, holding RJ's limp, cold hand. The flashing lights illuminate the absolute, unadulterated terror on her face. The paramedics are shouting, fighting to stabilize his rapidly plummeting vitals. The monitor beeps frantically, a terrifying soundtrack to a nightmare she cannot wake up from. But the physical damage is simply too severe. The sharp metal severed a major artery, causing catastrophic internal bleeding. Right there, in the back of the speeding ambulance, the frantic beeping of the heart monitor suddenly flatlines. It emits a long, agonizing, continuous tone. The paramedics stop compressions. They look at the clock. They look at Elektra. RJ Forrester dies before they even reach the hospital doors. The golden boy is gone forever. The news hits the Forrester mansion like a nuclear warhead dropping from the sky. Ridge Forrester receives the phone call that instantly destroys his entire universe. The phone slips from his trembling hand, shattering on the hardwood floor. His son. His boy. Dead. Ridge falls to his knees, a guttural, agonizing scream ripping from his throat. The paralyzing grief instantly metamorphoses into a terrifying, cold, and highly calculated wrath. A dark, unforgiving switch flips inside the Forrester patriarch. There will be absolutely no mercy. There will be no forgiveness. There will only be absolute, biblical vengeance. Ridge makes a terrifying, blood-soaked vow. He will use every single resource, every political connection, and every ounce of Forrester power and wealth to ensure Will Spencer never sees the light of day again. He swears on his dead son's grave that Will rot in a maximum security concrete cell for the rest of his natural life. Ridge immediately mobilizes his empire. He contacts the chief of police. He pressures the district attorney. He demands that will be arrested immediately, charged with first-degree premeditated murder, and denied any chance of bail. He wants a public, humiliating execution in the courtroom. He wants the Spencer name dragged through the mud, utterly destroyed, and buried right next to his son. Across town, the devastating shockwave hits the Spencer Publications Tower. Bill Spencer receives the frantic, terrifying call. The billionaire patriarch realizes instantly that his son has just killed a Forrester and is facing life behind bars. The blood drains from Bill's face, but only for a fraction of a second. Dollar Bill shifts into absolute, uncompromising war mode. The fashion rivalries, the stolen designs, the corporate espionage, all of it vanishes into thin air. This is no longer a game of market share. This is a brutal fight for his son's actual life. Bill will gladly burn Los Angeles to the absolute ground to protect his cub. Bill deploys his limitless, terrifying wealth. He summons the most ruthless, high-priced, cutthroat defense attorneys in the country. He hires elite fixers, private investigators, and aggressive media spin doctors. He prepares to launch an unprecedented, scorched-earth legal and personal war against the entire Forrester dynasty. The strategy is immediately formulated in the Spencer boardroom. Bill's legal mercenaries will argue self-defense. They will paint RJ as the violent aggressor, highlighting the previous physical altercations and the toxic, obsessive rivalry. They will ruthlessly turn the victim into the villain to save Will from a life sentence. This creates a catastrophic, unstoppable collision course. Ridge's limitless, agonizing fury is crashing head-on into Bill's limitless, ruthless wealth. The two most powerful empires in the city are no longer fighting over a runway, they are fighting over a body bag. The collateral damage will be entirely incalculable. The media catches wind of the scandalous murder. Headlines scream across every screen, newspaper, and billboard in the city. Forrester heir slain in showroom brawl. Spencer heir charged with brutal murder. The paparazzi aggressively swarmed the hospital, the police station, and both corporate headquarters, turning a family tragedy into a massive public spectacle. The entire city is forced to choose sides. The Forrester family circles the wagons, united in their devastating grief and their unquenchable, burning thirst for justice. The Spencer family locks down the compound, preparing for the legal and public relations siege of the century. But in the absolute, terrifying center of this apocalyptic war stands Electra Forrester. She is trapped in a psychological purgatory from which there is absolutely no escape. Her soul is fractured into a million irreparable pieces. Electra is consumed by a blinding, visceral, agonizing hatred for Will. He killed her blood. He extinguished the brightest light in her family. He took RJ away forever in a fit of uncontrollable rage. She wants to see him punished. She wants to see him suffer for the agonizing, suffocating pain he has inflicted on her loved ones. Yet, beneath the suffocating layers of grief and intense rage, a devastating, undeniable truth remains. Her love for Will Spencer is unsalvageable, toxic, and entirely eternal. Despite the blood on his hands, despite the horrific murder of her cousin, her shattered heart still beats for the man who destroyed her family. Electra is standing at the most agonizing crossroads of her entire life. The prosecution will desperately need her testimony. She is the sole eyewitness to the fatal, bloody brawl. She holds the absolute, terrifying power to send Will to prison for life, or to introduce the shadow of reasonable doubt that could set him free. Will she take the stand, swear on a Bible, and look into the eyes of the man she loves as she condemns him to a cage? Or will she betray her own blood, betray Ridge, and betray RJ's sacred memory to protect a killer? The pressure from Ridge is immense and suffocating. He demands her absolute, unquestioning loyalty. He demands she tell the world that Will Spencer is a cold-blooded, calculating murderer. But Bill Spencer is also circling like a shark, reminding her of the profound love she shared with his son, subtly and dangerously pressuring her to remember the fatal push as a tragic accident. The tension is reaching a terrifying fever pitch. The courtroom battle of the century is looming ominously on the horizon. Families will be permanently shattered. Massive corporate empires will crumble into dust. The blood spilled on the Forrester runway is only the beginning of the carnage. Who will survive the ultimate, devastating fallout of R.J. Forrester's tragic death, and will Elektra's final, impossible choice seal Will's fate forever? The plot just reached an explosive new level of drama. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Emma Bennett, wishing you a wonderful and safe day ahead.